topics are regarding better production, better nutrition, better environment, better life, and better support. At this time and through this channel, we're going to be speaking about better production. My name is Orush Parsa. I'm the Officer of Innovation and Digitalization of the FAO Office for Latin America and the Caribbean. And today I will be facilitating with the moderation, with the conversation and the exchange that is taking place here. With me, we have Macarena, who's going to be technical support, who's going to help us controlling times and solving the small issues that may come up. Likewise, we'll be able to address the questions and exchanges to her. This will be certainly the most routine part of this space. Let me remind you that this event is being broadcasted via Zoom with simultaneous interpretation to Spanish, English, and French. On your screens, you'll find a globe icon that you can use to select the language that you want to listen to. Let me tell you too that this event is also being broadcasted, and for those of us that are watching us on this channel, you can choose the language on the bottom above by which you can choose what are you listening to. In the first block of the FIRD that just concluded, we had a debate about the efficiency and the behavior in charge of Steve Wendell of the South Center of Behavior and Economics. The objective of the second space of parallel rooms is to create a dialogue and exchange of good practices, lessons learned together, the FAO team, the partners, the beneficiaries. And the point is that good practices will be shared and they will inspire and catalyze conversations. The upscaling of innovations. At any moment, if you wish to, you can change channels. Let's hope that you will not do this. However, we know that there could be different interests on your behalf, and all the channels are open and they happen simultaneously. Let me also thank everyone who's present right now, those who are helping us by presenting their experiences, or sharing them with us, the team behind each one of the presentations, the commentators that will share the comments regarding the experiences and the other topics we're going to be tackling. Finally, all the people who are with us on the streaming, may you be welcome. Welcome, everyone. Let me remind you that we are broadcasting this on streaming on YouTube on www.fao.org/Americas. And likewise, we invite the invitees to ask questions on the Zoom chat that we are going to try to solve during the Q&A. Please tell us your name and the name of the speaker that you're addressing the question to, so that we can ease a better conversation with you. So please everyone, keep your mics off at all times in order to avoid any kind of interruption throughout this event. So the way this event is going to work, this is going to be organized into 3 blocks or 3 moments. The first one, thanks Macarena, we're going to listen to 4 inspiring experiences of the region. 2 of them come from the region and 2 come from countries, from El Salvador and Colombia. Panel will remind you that you only have this time, so you can start wrapping up your presentation. Let me remind the speakers that there will be videos that will be directly broadcasted by the producer. You don't have to worry about anything. They will be broadcasted by them, so you don't have to share them. On the second block, after the 4 presentations, we're going to have an open space so that the guest, Gusland McCook and Eduardo Ramírez, will be providing their insights and comments for no more than 5 minutes regarding the presentations that have been seen today. And after that, the third space is the one that we would like to open for all of you to do a dialogue with the insights, with the talks, and with the learning process that we certainly have as the main objective that brings us together the day of today. So let's start then, if we may, with the first of the presentations. It's called March and Peru. So with us, we have Fernanda Scherer, who's a communication manager for the development on the Mas Algodón project from Brazil. Fernanda loves photography, Italian food, and the power of communication to change people's lives. So Fernanda, the floor is yours. Thank you for that introduction. So this is me, this is Fernanda. I'm working with History for Development in Initiative Lazos, which I have been part of since 2020. It's a pleasure to have this opportunity of presenting this initiative that includes a big chunk of my heart. With the first stage, which was the development of the app, the development of the platform. After that, the second stage helped us implement certain pilot projects, and today we are in the third stage, which is the stage where we are upscaling the project and the social media of cotton in Latin America. So Lazos today has this main objective, which is communicating the cotton sector of Latin America. So let's start from the beginning. Lazos, which means links, is an initiative, the More Cotton Project, together with the Federal University of Santa Maria in the south part of Brazil. This is a project, the South-South cooperation from the FAO, and also the Brazilian Institute of Cotton, and the Brazilian Agency and the partner countries. Currently, Mas Algodón is working proactively with 5 countries, which are Paraguay, Ecuador, Bolivia, Colombia, and Peru. So, from Brazil, Mas Algodón is also working with other partner institutions, for example, universities, Abrapa, which are institutions that ease their knowledge and provide them to Mas Algodón. Mas Algodón also works with over 80 institutions that work with local and national governments, and they provide their knowledge and initiatives as well as their actions. Mas Algodón has 4 main action pillars. So strategic alliances, social innovation, and ordinary peoples. So following this context, this is placed in social innovation and sustainable technology. All right, so Lazos is an initiative that was created to improve the quality of life of populations in the rural areas through the creation of an exchange environment. Therefore, as a summary, Lazos was created to provide an exchange environment to these populations. Lazos has as foundation the communication for development. In Latin America, in the rural areas of Latin America, there are communication strategies for development that can bring closer social problems to their solutions, because the CFD, which is communication for development, therefore, this is where the Lazos initiative is added through the CPD. Lazos provides the following. First, an application, which is a space as a social media platform by which stakeholders of the cotton sector are connected. So this includes rural organizations, institutions, companies. So this is the space. It's a social network for the exchange of experiences and information. It also brings up a platform where the Mas Algodón team and the projects involved with it may access the interactions that take place throughout the application. It is an exclusive platform for our projects for Mais Algodón, and this is because this is so with this foundation of communication for development, in addition, there's also an application, but also there's an action for digital inclusion by which populations can optimize their communication too. So let me introduce each one of these three parts. First, the Lazos application, which was created to provide this environment for the exchange of knowledge, good practices, and information. So Lazos has a timeline that shares information focused on development. And in addition, there are spaces for communities through the Lazos application. These are private communities for specific matters or different are the examples of the content shown on the feed of the Lazos app. So we have news, first the first one about the voice of the women. So these are examples of experiences, but also FAO videos. We also share the events that happen, which could be important for the development of this dog. And the next two images, the ones on the bottom right, show images of the Lazos communities. So the first one joins pilots of agricultural production of cotton from all Latin America. Therefore, this includes universities that work with cotton, researchers, producers associations. They have this space to share their own experiences. And in addition, there's also another related to food safety and food security. So this is some content examples that are shared through the Lazos app. Lazos also provides a platform. This is a picture of the Lazos platform. This platform helps encode and store the content that is published on the application. So through it, we can map and generate alerts about the topics that Lazos should speak about, or the alerts of the different creations that take place. And it could also generate data that are very important today for the development of more actions that are focused on rural development. And the literacy applications, and this shows an example of a news of an action that was carried out with the agricultural school of Villarrica. And with this action, some students participated on the Lazos, which was a challenge regarding ecology. And here the communication team shared the experience about the creation of news, the production of videos, of pictures, of interviews, and all the systems which are related to agroecology, to the topics that are being developed at school. So through this, we try to optimize knowledge regarding communication of this rural youth. Another example of action for digital literacy was first, the Peasant Federation in the North Zone of Manabi in Ecuador, McCook, which is the Community Women Association of Tosawa, and also the Rivas Association, which also brings together farmers from Ecuador. And in this workshop, we also worked with the possibility of taking pictures, making videos, and widespreading their products. But we also shared websites that were free for this production of this type of material, their menu, their products, how the company is doing, and all of this, which was for digital.
Então, seus laços. Oi, para quienes. Para quienes é esta iniciativa. Primeiro, então,
So, first of all, this we're gonna need you to finish up in 30 seconds because we're running out of time. Thank you. Okay, so what I was saying, so for people, for the farmers, basically, are the ones that are working in family farms in Latin America. And so some important information that we have here is exactly how much does it cost? And the monthly cloud cost is $380, and the monthly IT consultant is $300, and the cost of designing the app is $10,000, and the people who are financing. For example, this design is really important because it's something that's already ready and something that's already working. And so this monthly cost of the cloud is something that can also be working together with other institutions, and it could actually and then we can see that the partners include the FAO. And then the last slide that I have here is how in the third phase, the first phase was the work agreement with the university to do the design production of the platform. And then the second phase is when we worked with implementing pilot plans in Paraguay and in Ecuador. And now in the third phase, we have a regional scaling. And here we have a focus on the firm creation of networks for cloth here in Latin America. And so thank you very, very much. So here we can see how we can work here to amplify all of these different connections that we have when we're all working together. So this was a really great example, and I really innovative plan. And so we're here with us today. We're with Diego, and he is a representative of the FAO here in Ecuador, and he really likes photography. He likes walking in the mountains, and he likes to do mountain skiing. He likes visiting archaeological sites, particularly when it's related to the Mayans. Also with us today is Mónica Rivas Beltran, who's an analyst on follow-up in FAO in El Salvador. And so we're going to learn more about, she likes to learn about the cultural roots of Ecuador, and she likes living alongside indigenous people. She also likes ballet and theater. We have a very multidisciplinary team. So we'd love to hear from you. You've got 10 minutes. We're going to remind you when you have 2 minutes left to go. Go ahead. Well, good morning. And to everyone who are listening to us today. What it is that we have done to be able to really work on this project. And so this is something that we see that there's been a lot of effort made to make the changes needed to work towards digitalization, to find a more innovative model in this dry corridor. Okay, next slide, please. So this area is a really broad region, which goes all the way from Panama, and it goes down to this from the southern Mexico. And so here you can El Salvador is basically the entire eastern part of the country, sorry. And so we've seen a lot of areas here where we get no rain. And so having said that, the project has focused on the really worstly disturbed areas. We have a project with 127 million from the Green Fund. Here you can see the main partners that we have, which you can see that we are working here throughout the country. We work with the Ministry of the Agriculture. We have a local partner, and we work with the FIAs, and also we work with local municipalities and local organizations. And so there's 3 parts of this project. One is to improve the resilience of life and also production systems for families. And so here we have 50 million families that live in this dry corridor. So that's about 225 million people. And so here in the second component, we can see restoring and reforesting. We're reforesting a lot of different areas. And so we're also working in part 3, which is improving processes of governance and information flows and structures within the territory, where we are going to be working on the entire phase of planning and to see what exactly it is that we have in the territories to get support from our partners. And so here you can see the different municipalities where we're working through each different phase. There's 114 municipalities throughout the countries, where we have 44% of the total number of municipalities that have a Reclima project. And so it's a really broad, wide-reaching project. So how is it that we can reach 50,000 beneficiaries? So here, besides the project, we're also working here trying to work with different community promoters. We're working with 1,300 4.2 million of CO2 that has been captured. So here, what we really want to focus on are those 50,000 beneficiaries, because what we're going to try to work on here is to see how we're going to reach these 50,000 beneficiaries in a way that's coordinated, and that we can have clear results. So we're going to hear from Mónica now. All right, thank you very much. So continuing here with this challenge, our main challenge is to take technical assistance, innovation, and good practice to 50,000 families and 214 municipalities throughout the country to transform the social reality, the economic reality, and the climatic reality of the dry corridor. And so how are we going to respond to the main challenge? And so using innovation accents, we have, first of all, is this about that. So first we have the service model for the extension of Reclima. So this model works in a way that we can transfer knowledge. And so this begins with technicians, and then they each have 16 community promoters under them. And then those 16 community promoters, in turn, they support different producers. And so here, where the different producers then work with 8 different producers that are the 50,000 beneficiaries. And so what this does is it all comes together of having one technician, 16 promoters, and then the 4 different leaders, and then also the producers. And so in the end, what we end up seeing here is a total of 608 producers for each technique. In both a digital way and using the different tools that we're going to be talking about through the rest of the presentation. So the first thing that we want to see is look at these different producers. What we're trying to do is give them a finca plan, which is a farm plan. And so what we're trying to do is give them geo-referencing systems so that we can see, get information about the beneficiary families of the product. And we can see that this is information that's going to give us what it is that we need to have to really maximize production and the resilience, and to have characterization of those different farmers. And so then what we need to do is it makes it easier for us they've got a QR reader in their cell phone, and that makes it possible to scan things. And similarly, here we're going to show you in the next slide exactly. Here, I'm just going to tell you a few of the different challenges that we've had to be able to implement the farm plan. And so if we look at the farm plan, we have both a physical version and a digital version. And so what this does is that many people didn't actually want to use Kobo, which is our digital tool. And so some farmers, and then we have other farmers that are using them. And so what that did was like really push others to actually use it. And so there are certain situations where that did make it easier for us. But what we ended up realizing was that the way that different farmers, and so what we were able to do is give that training to people. And so here we have the extension technicians and the community promoters to go and use these different farm plans. And so then you can see that they go up into the cloud, they're processed. And so that information, it helps us to be able to make decisions. And so here, well, we can see the first number were the different plans that were digitalized in COBOL to do monitoring and evaluation. And then we also have a use of georeferencing data that we have a map here that was also put together with georeferenced points that come out of the different QRs that you can use. Okay, so here we can see here that we have. All right, so this is a farmer who's a promoter who is 63 years old, who's from the municipality of Atisiquaya. So it's a really easy way for us to move forward on this. And so this is what we have here for our presentation. And so here, if you scan this QR code, you're going to be able to find our presentation. We do have a video here to close out with. It's real short.
Soy el líder de los agricultores. Somos 200 agricultores. Tenemos una comunicación en que nos unimos todos. Todos siempre unidos. Así seguimos en la agricultura y en la comunidad. Entonces ellos se admiran y dicen, wow, ¿de 2 tareas sacas un quintal? Sí. De 2 tareas saca un quintal. Y ellos de 1 manzana están sacando un quintal. Que son diferentes a 4 tareas a lo que yo tengo. He compartido con mis agricultores, con la gente, en haciéndoles ver cómo se hace orgánico. La hormona de bambú, yo la hago, le digo, hacerlo así, hagámoslo así, comparto la idea con todos. Y el que lo quiere hacer, lo hace. Y si no, me compra.
Bueno, la situación climática aquí en el territorio ha venido cambiando. Las altas temperaturas de alguna manera está propiciando la mayor incidencia de plagas y enfermedades que de alguna manera vienen a repercutir en la actividad productiva de los agricultores. Para poder paliar el cambio climático, ya estamos trabajando bastante con los productos agroecológicos, que de alguna manera viene a paliar bastante las necesidades de los agricultores. Estamos utilizando los supermagros, estamos utilizando los caldos, estamos utilizando los fungicidas orgánicos, los insecticidas orgánicos. Sabemos que el suelo tiene vida, hay microorganismos ahí y les inculcamos a los agricultores minimizar esas prácticas, la quema, el rastrojo, trabajando en la incorporación de materia orgánica, la incorporación de abonos verdes. De alguna manera vamos recuperando ese suelo porque ahí está la base de la agricultura, tener suelo sano, vamos a tener una agricultura más sana y más amigable.
agriculture when we use organic products.
And here we have a great experience. This is a clear example of a very bold challenge without fear. Through 50,000 individuals, they reach 250,000 beneficiaries. So I congratulate you, Mónica and Diego. Because this is digital, there is a space to innovate socially through this cascading. This is the original experience once again, and this is about the GeoKit tool, about geospatial knowledge. So we have Marygrace Balinos, who is a GIS specialist from the FAO office for Latin America and the Caribbean. So before the restrictions, she loved going to concerts and dancing and also traveling. She loves crafts and drawing and taking pictures. With her, we have Michael Rahija, who's an economist associated for the FAO office for Latin America and the Caribbean. He likes to fish, ride his bike, listen to music, visit parks, and travel. Of course, with his children and his wife. So thank you very much. The floor is yours. You have 10 minutes. Thank you very much, Suresh.
Good morning, everyone. We derive or do with the longitude and latitude point data set. What comes to mind? You could all leave some comments on our chat. Some of these, what we could think of is asking where to implement projects, what interactions we could derive from the information and data we have on an area or territorial unit, and other location-based related questions, or even just with our day-to-day activities of using our smartphones, like how to get to the office in the shortest possible route. With that, we are already thinking spatially, and we would like to strengthen that skill. So what is GIS, or SIG? Its acronym in Spanish. It stands for Geographic Information System. It is an integrated system of software, hardware, manage and visualize georeference data, or data representing the real world with spatial reference. So good day to everyone. My name is Marygrace Balinos, one of GIS specialists in FAO RLC. Today, I will share with you about FAO RLC Geospatial Knowledge, Innovation, and Technology, or as we call it, GeoKit. So GeoKit, conceptualized in June 2021, is an initiative which is for now directed internally within FAO RLC community. Its aim is to create and strengthen the FAO RLC network of practitioners and interested colleagues in geospatial knowledge, innovation, and technology, as well as to promote and strengthen the capacity in the use of geospatial technology in any part of the project planning and management phases. Project impact through spatial thinking. We take you back where it began. The genesis of this activity were actions led by the ADG during 2020 to integrate territorial approaches to project planning and implementation. Then in 2021, a governance mechanism through a GIS Task Force Steering Committee was created, and a capacity and needs assessment survey was distributed to understand the current GIS capacity of country offices, main priorities, and its constraints. One of the findings based on the survey was the limited regional capacity to use data in geospatial analysis to increase project impact. GeoKit is supported by a TCP project, which is its title in Spanish is Fortalecimiento de regular program funds. It is valued at about $45,000 per year and is implemented through the GIS Task Force Steering Committee, which is now known as GeoKit Steering Committee. We have collaborated closely with Digitalization and Informatics Division, or CSI, Agri-Food Economics Division, or ESA, and the decentralized offices, and also the RLC IT team. So based on the results of the SED survey of 2021, the GeoKit network was created with a list of training priorities, governance mechanism for strategic guidance, and a series of related products and services. Trainings at basic and advanced levels were conducted, and communication products were also launched. The RLC GeoKit has 3 broad technical services: governance and coordination, capacity development for FAO and national counterparts, and geospatial mapping and analysis services. To date, during its first year of implementation, we have achieved 3 bi-monthly GeoKit network meetings, 1 GeoKit talks, 2 GeoKit GeoKnowit publications, which is mainly map infographics, 2 trainings where more than 50 staff participated in total. In parallel, 2 interactive maps and about 25 static maps elaborated, 564 projects mapped during the 2020-21, 50 new data sets integrated in the platform, in the hand-in-hand geospatial platform, in the RLC instance, and continued assistance Geospatial Knowledge Hub website, where you can find different sections, including a forum of GeoKit network, a gallery for GeoKnowit, and video galleries for trainings in GeoTalks webinar series. So I would like to highlight the map gallery, where one can upload maps and search for available maps shared by the community. So you will see some of the example maps that we have, and you could access it. And you could download the map that you desire. Also, we have the FAO projects that use geospatial components and other related tools. So is their work. So we hope that the hub could be a space to promote knowledge sharing within the FAO RLC community. So on the other hand, this is the interface of the FAO hand-in-hand geospatial platform. And at the moment, it's showing the RLC instance. And this is accessible to everyone. So you could see the link of the website. So you could test it, you could access it. So the application is based on an open source platform. You could explore different global data sets, and also you could add your own data sets. So the RLC instance has specific countries data sets, and there is a shareable links of the interactive maps of the selected layers. And you could also print. So all in all, these generated maps and stories could be used in your reports, presentations, project planning, project proposal, communication-related purposes, among others. So looking back in 2020, it started with locating projects at a municipal level, identifying 100 territories and creating ad hoc use of maps. Last year, in 2021, a strategic strategic approach was implemented, thus the formation of the GIS task force, and later the GeoKit concept was proposed. Now, 2020, the task force is now known as GeoKit Steering Committee. And the launching of the Geospatial Knowledge Hub. In addition, the proposed project by the Statistical Committee on the use of satellite images for agricultural data was approved. How we project for the future. So we see statistics meets geospatial. The idea is to systematically incorporate data produced by country offices and counterparts into the hand-in-hand geospatial platform. More so, incorporate new data from counterparts into FAO's planning and communication processes and use them in all trainings. Lastly, we would like to share a Geo Know It moment. And this is the implementation of our SharePoint workspace, which is the FAO RC Geospatial Knowledge Hub. Through the hub, GeoKit had gained interest and mostly positive reception of the community. And we are extremely glad we implemented it.
A minute, please.
Now you know it. So thank you for listening and have a lovely day.
Thank you so very much, Marygrace. Muchísimas gracias, Marygrace, por compartir esa experiencia. Muy interesante pensar que esas tecnologías...
Thank you, Marygrace, for sharing the experience. It's so interesting to see that these technologies were born for the service of the war, and now we're leveraging this for the service of an agenda of development, of well-being, and these are great efforts created by you in order to democratize a little bit the use of these tools for a smaller resolution and granular, therefore other actors can use them too and leverage them for their own INNOVA, which is Innovation for Apiculture. This is in charge of a lot of aspects, was a master's in rural development, who will be presenting this. Laura is the leader of the Innovation Department for Rural Development, a coordinator of the tax project from the FAO office in Colombia. Laura certainly has a very original hobby. She practices what this is, Candy Cross, with her dog. At a different moment, she will tell us what this is all about. So Laura, you have 10 minutes, and thank you so much for your participation. Thank you so much. I will let you know what Candy Cross is all about further on. It's a wonderful sport, however. So now I'll be sharing my screen. So please allow me, if you can see it, let me know when it's available. Not yet, but now it is. We can see you, so go ahead. All right, colleagues. Thank you. A more innovative organization. Greetings to our representative. And now we would like to tell you about our experience. It has been a very interesting experience for the internal management of the company, as well as for the process we create with the organizations we work with in Colombia. Our initiative is called FAO INNOVA, and it's an innovation initiative for agriculture that has developed under the framework of the TAP ICE project, which is an initiative of the G20, where 9 countries are part of this initiative, and we develop and strengthen innovation processes for agriculture innovation process in different countries. And certainly we believe that even though innovation is the main booster of the 4 improvements, it's become a dynamize and foster and strengthen innovation in all the things that we do. So, based on this and following the TAP ICE project, we have gathered different issues throughout the year, 2021, to see where we can carry out actions to strengthen innovation process through organizations. And certainly, we have found a given organization with a very innovative initiative that it's related to apiculture. And this is where there was something quite interesting that nourishes that, which is how the FAO becomes integrated to all these kind of initiatives, because certainly without these, there's no pollination, and without pollination, there's no agriculture, and without agriculture, there's no food, and without food, well, what would be of us? So initiative is.
Como organización, porque la FAO hoy en día está trabajando en procesos de innovación.
Today, FAO is working on innovation processes. And so we're seeing how we can support organizations that are strengthening and working on this. And the first step for doing that is knowing exactly how these innovations are made. And also because this case means working with different innovations, different aspects of it. We're working with technological innovation, organizational, social, institutional, and educational innovation. And so this has really created a major challenge that we have to connect not only technical teams, but also managing knowledge, how to recognize and move these kind of initiatives forward in the territory. And so here, what kind of products we can make out of the honey and what kind of services we can have with the different organizations that are working with this, with technical accompaniment and with all of the different people that are starting to work in beekeeping. And so we're looking for new markets. And so we're trying to find who is the major honey producer in the country. So there's lots of different experiences as to how we can connect rural women, youth, the elderly, and all these different type of initiatives that end up becoming an inclusive production with different procedures, technologies, and new ways that we can work with beekeeping culture on an initiative that's a challenge for the FAO, which is working in new distribution channels and how we can communicate everything that we do on technical terms. And it's a really strong organization that brings together 5 different associations of beekeeping groups that produce like 15,000 tons per week and a number of producers of 457, but that are constantly increasing. And so something that's really important here is the fact that this is an organization that's made up of peasants, indigenous communities, victims, former guerrillas. And so these are all people that's really different here. And this inclusive model that the organization has makes it so that it's not just in technological innovation, but this is a social innovation. And so that's why, all these different levels of inclusion that we're including. And so here in Campo Dulce, we can see that they want to put together or whatever it is that they're drinking. And they said, well, what we want to do is have, a sweetener that's based on honey that doesn't, something that's like a little spoon that's totally ready to go. And so that became, a challenge of working with these organizations to see how they could work on this kind of innovation. And the engineering of the food engineering. And so in the organizational model for this kind of organization and these associations that make the honey would have new classification strategies for their products, and obviously everything that has to do with marketing and how to position this kind of an initiative. And so here in terms of the process, we have a co-innovation to the needs of an institution that is exploring new market initiatives. And number two, to analyze the opportunities and who are the stakeholders, what are the possibilities, what are the different positioning options, how is market penetration in this? I mean, how does that product look to consumers? And then obviously to work in everything that has to do with analyzing the business model and the value chain for the product, because we're putting honey into a spoon, and that's a change in the culture. And so today we are working in phases 3 and 4, which is the whole value chain of the product, and making a prototype and putting things together technically with the prototype, and so that we can then move into the commissioning and branding. And so something that's really key here is that we're working with the different people who are connected with the organization so that they know how to present the product in a 5-minute pitch. And so, if you're going to if you're going to meet with some sort of businessman, some possible buyer, how are you going to present them this spoon of sweetener so that it could be something that's attractive for a possible consumption? And so this meant that we had to work with a large network of stakeholders throughout the nation, in the different departments and also locally. And then, we did a bunch of different studies that also made it possible for the FAO to generate, new instruments for managing innovation. And today we have 4 different inputs that are available to all of you, and that is a national portfolio of innovative solutions for FAO projects. And so wherever you want to go, you can find all the different access, the links, so just you can see what how we can measure the status of an organization when we talk about their different innovation processes. And then we also have, a table where we can evaluate the innovation cases. And then, of course, obviously, the analysis of the entire innovation network to be able to strengthen and identify these different initiatives. You got 1 minute left. Thank you. And so this all translated into a virtuous model where we can analyze necessities, analyze the environment, the different policy instruments, where we can do the value chain of the different needs, and we can identify the whole market niche and the penetration of these different solutions, so that we can implement and do the follow-up. And so the message that I have for everyone is that here at FAO, we have to really know how to recognize an innovation. That's step 1. And so we've got to get trained on this. Thank you, Laura, for that really provocative, suggestion. I thought it was really interesting how just, a pretty small product, you've been able to generate, a way that you can coordinate with a bunch of different stakeholders to put producers in contact with consumers, to really, look at a cultural change that has to do with innovation. So it's a really interesting option that we have to cultural changes, different ways of thinking, different methodologies. So even if a product's very small, that you have in mind, to see how you can involve different stakeholders, and you're going to end up in processes that are much more ambitious. And so thank you very much. And thank you to all of our panelists. And now we are going to be going on to our people who are going to be making from a fair. And so we'd like to hear your comments from 2 special guests who are going to talk a little bit about the presentations that we've seen and reflect on them. And you're each going to have 3 to 5 minutes to talk. And so we want to remind you that after these first 2 comments, we will then be opening up to a Q&A. And so we would like you to think about what kind of questions you'd like to ask and what kind of comments you'd like to make, so that we can participate. Or you can put those things in the chat, then we'll get them out of the chat so that we can work towards that. So having said that, what I'd like to do now is then pass the floor to our first panelist, Mr. McCook, who's an agronomist and works for works in the Jamaica Regulatory Authority, Jamaica. He's really interested in generating knowledge through investigation, research, and he's been working in and so you have 3 to 5 minutes now to tell us about what it is that you have to say. Thank you very much. I'd like to show you my comments now. To start with, I'd like to thank the FAO for making this initiative and for having this first regional effort and to have the discussion here about knowledge and also innovation of issues that are really important, especially in this time of globalization, but it's globalization that now is threatened. So, you know, something that we really put a focus here on the major role that the FAO has on promoting innovation, which is not just to eliminate hunger and malnutrition, but also to do it in such a way that's sustainable with the environment, social life, and economic life. So this is one way which we can see here the different components to develop rural areas. And so it's a really good initiative that the FAO has and is taking action on such matters. And so when it comes to cotton, you know, it's a product that people. However, it is a crop that's really important is when it comes to job creation and diversification of income in rural areas. And so the Lazos initiative is to improve people's lives in a way that's reciprocal and uses information. And it's a really well-addressed initiative. So, you know, when it all comes to this idea of sustainable cotton, so the different groups that need this service are also represented, and the only thing that but of course, there's a really broad possibility here to go into other crops. And this is a project with different municipalities in El Salvador and the different production systems for, you know, millions of families. And with this farm plan, it's going to be a lot easier to make an analysis of production and to contribute to food security.
The network of professional different stages for project management. This is to make better and well-informed decisions. And the apiculture project based on the reality that bees have a huge impact on the Earth's ecosystem regarding biodiversity, as well as the quality of nutrition and food quality, which is produced by the farmers. So this project, through its innovation and dynamism, provides energy to the bee supply chain, which is great for the development of the apiculture industry. And can help reducing poverty and hunger and foster climate production. So these are 4 projects that are very important in the work of the FAO. Thank you very much for your comments, for your analysis. We're going to go next with Eduardo Ramírez. Eduardo, it's noon. We only have 15 minutes, also meant for the dialogue. So please only speak for 3 to 5 minutes. Our friend Eduardo is a coordinator of the group of actions, as well as digital villages for the FAO in Marygrace. He likes to walk on the beach and talk to friends. Presented this interesting project innovations regarding the project. Tackle 2 lessons learned that I've gathered from this presentations, and also a challenge that I have identified for the FAO in the future. So first, and together with the first talk, well, we need to know in order to change and to make changes. But also changes can be individual and collective. I think that this is the main header for the exercises of innovation, or what is meant to be communicated via the, for example, shown today. Fernanda, regarding the Lazos that has the capacities institutionally in order to mobilize this kind of collaboration. We've often heard RTG saying that alone we won't be able to fulfill the goals that we have as society and as a globe, but also doing this as a country. So I think that this innovation is not valued appropriately, but it's crucial. We need to know how South countries can help other South countries to improve their economic capacity to bring the world. And here there are 2 things that are gathered and that are quite interesting. First, social innovation is connected to technology innovation. So the idea of social technology through dialogue, through knowledge, through stakeholders, which a very clear perspective where capabilities become fundamental. If we want to innovate and we want it to be inclusive and we don't want to leave behind smallholders in our country, then we need to strengthen the capacities of the producers, also of those who help the smallholders find a new guide for their country. So now, capacities, skills can be internal, for example, as internal tools of the FAO to improve their impact, and also the external ones as our partners and our beneficiaries that they need in order to improve their capacities. And finally, to wrap up what Colombia said, the idea of innovating with a market. This is a very clear sign that we need to follow. We need to manage towards our work. I think that innovation should be linked to markets. And secondly, another lesson from Colombia is that the work that we do with projects for the territories and others should follow a upscaling logic, because we need to conceive models that can be scaled, that can be adopted by the government and the private sector and producers organizations, so that these innovations can reach many. Because we know that there are 16 million producers in America who need to improve their relationship with the environment and their capacity for generating benefits and income for their families. Finally, I would like to conclude with one of the challenges. How we can have a public and private incidents that can help us scale and scale and scale. Thank you, sirs. Thanks, colleagues, for your presentations. Thank you so much, Eduardo, for your analysis. For the question that could be the opener for this Q&A that it's starting right now. Once again, thanks, Mr. McCook. Thanks both of you, you and Fernando, for your comments and your analysis. So the final exercise of this block is open a Q&A session for comments and reflections too. We have until 12:15, so we have less than 10 minutes, but let's hope that we can make something out of this space. You can raise your hand. You can also write on the chat. Let's make this short questions, and if you can say the person your hand. So let's see if there's another question too, and let's see if in the meantime someone else has something else to say. So Fernanda, please identify the person or people that you want to ask you to answer a question. First, I would like to briefly answer the comments that you mentioned regarding the project, specifically about Lazos, because we identified at this project 365 million people in the world who have cotton crops, and the project in 2019, 101,000 producers of cotton in America. So it is a crop that is quite important. So regarding the cost of the project, the cost is covered by the project itself. Therefore, the farmer does not have to pay for Lazos. And regarding Eduardo's comment about social innovation and technology, about this link between these two. So what's possible today, and what's also crucial for innovation, for social innovation, is creating this link with technology. It's great to listen to all this different innovation. I congratulate each one of the presentation from my colleagues. Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much, Fernanda, for your answer. Certainly, it's a huge impact. Now, there are some comments that we can see that are popping up on the chat. They're saying that this is a great event. So I realized that there's a divergence, that there's a great number of possibilities, there's a broad impact about the things that we are carrying out at different levels. What connections do you see from the perspective of the project that you work with, and the gaps that need to be closed from the perspective of behavioral science? The first presentation that was about learning from our users, empathizing with them. Perhaps Fernanda, Diego, Mónica, Marygrace, or Laura, any one of you could share any experience that you've had from the perspective of behavioral science about a gap, a barrier that you had to overcome, and how you tackled it in the context of your project. I would like to answer, Surush. I think that we are doing this because if you think that the methodology of cascading from producer to producer, is convincing people, is changing the project that we have in the country, is socializing and growing with farmers, among producers, and also, and above all, let me say this, no one is going to do this if they don't see this done by the neighbor. So there's a leader farmer that shows their neighbors and they say, listen, this is how well I did with organic fertilizers. This is my yield. Do you want to do the same? And this is where they're going to be considering this, because they're going to be avoiding the process in between. A process, as I mentioned in the morning, regarding the behavior economy. And I was saying the same thing. This is being done. Thank you. Very interesting intervention. And it's perhaps inherent to our processes, to the way in which we understand the users, where we build in the where's the link between the work that you're doing and perhaps the new insights of behavioral science, or some of the things that you are already putting in practice, or technological adoption, or for doing this proposal based on the needs of the user? I would like to say something that we consider key, which is how this initiative has helped us in organizations. And this is something that is carried out usually. And this is about two perspectives. First, on the perspective of pollinators. And this is a collective benefit regarding sustainable production systems. Culture. So we see this production, but we don't see this from the other producers who don't produce honey. And this is where we see the collective culture related to conservation, whether I have or not agricultural production. So I have a co-responsibility regarding the environment, and this required a behavioral change and a new way of reading the territory regarding my responsibility, regarding my production system, either if it's for livestock or for agriculture. We all have bees, and this was one of the main models that we followed. And then in addition, thinking in a different way about having this kind of products, which means with the organization, we realized that we could start thinking to start reading their production models, their production system, to, and also how to enter the market. The pandemic shows that we need to develop more initiatives and more approach models for the consumers and the producers. And this, for example, was an initiative that enabled us to see this, to integrate, to put together all the initiatives or digital literacy to bring the producers towards the consumers. So I think that these are two very interesting patterns that should be analyzed in the FAO exercise. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Lara. This is an excellent way of understanding. This is a cultural dimension, and implicit work that is often not seen in the protagonism of what we do, but implies an understanding of socializing, of clarifying these points. Thank you so much for the speakers, the presenters. I'm sorry that we didn't have a longer space to speak about this. Let me invite you to take a look at these presentations. They're going to be available online. So there are some questions that we haven't been able to answer. The contact information of the speakers will be there, and these perhaps will promote more dialogue. So let's continue with this talk. Let's take advantage of these spaces and let's create more of these spaces so we can share. So my dear friends, let me remind you that right now we're going to have a short 15-minute break, and after this you can join the final talk where we are going to listen the opinion of our partners, of the FAO partners, regarding how we tackle innovation. We will be waiting for you there. So thank you so much for those who participated. I'm sorry for those whose questions were unable to answer. Thank you.
Hasta luego, gracias a todos los presentadores.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Eduardo. Goodbye. Thank you, Fernanda.
Julio, gracias, nos vemos. Carlos, gracias por tu mensaje. Macarena. Señor McCook, muchas gracias por su participación, muy agradecido.
Thank you very much for participation, Mr. McCook.